All right, we begin today's episode with a poem, a Christmas poem written by Deb. She got this into me through the Patreon. Deb, this is great. I scanned this podcast. It's awesome. We're going to start today's show with it. This is from Deb. This is titled A Visit from Saint Podcast. 'Twas the night before mailbag went all through the Discord. Not a comment was debated, not even a trade rumor. The statistics were posted about free agents with care in hopes that St. Podcast soon would have baseball news to share. The grounds crew were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of City Connect jerseys danced in their heads. And Scott in his newest hat and Adam in his trusty black cap had just settled down for an eggnog nightcap. When out on the internet there arose such a clatter, Adam sprang from his coffee mug covered desk to see what was the matter. Away to MLB.com he flew like a flash, tore open the headlines and ignored the clickbait trash. When what to his wandering eyes did appear but an article from St. Podcast announcing Blue Jays signings for the year. Adam messaged Scott for an emergency podcast, and his trusty tall pal connected his mic super fast. More rapid than trolls, the news did arrive as St. Podcast released the article. What a time to be alive. Now Yamamoto, now Snell, now Ramirez, now Hader. On Martinez, on Soler, on Chapman and Bellinger. The Blue Jays have done it. By gum, it's a rout. The Yankees and Dodgers can stay home and pout. With sourcing confirmed, St. Podcast's work is now done. He ends his piece with a guaranteed World Series run, and exclaimed in the postscript as he clicks out of the site, Merry Podcast to all, and to all a good night. Wow. Wowee. What a way to start Friday's show. Let me tell you, Deb, phenomenal stuff. Unfortunately, there isn't any real news in Blue Jays land. So I'm here from the North Pole today, bringing all of my Blue Jays Christmas wish list to St. Nicholas himself, to St. Podcast himself. No, for real, today's episode, we've got the interview with longtime friend of the show, former Blue Jay, now with the Mariners, Tayler Saucedo. Good chat. I love Tayler Saucedo. I miss him, wish he was still a Blue Jay, but this is the business. So glad that we've been able to remain friends over the years as he's left, and it's fun to see him succeed with the Mariners. So we're going to leave you with this podcast for today's episode. As far as next week goes and the release schedule for the rest of the year, if there's actual news, we'll get to a mailbag on Tuesday. We'll address it. MLB Mondays on the Patreon side. I'm going to be doing my MLB Mondays Eggnogathon, my lonely Christmas by myself. My kid's at her mom's. My wife is working. My family isn't out here to visit until the 28th. So Christmas Day, MLB Mondays, I'll be there. As far as, Mailbag Tuesday, we'll have to see. If there's actual news, we'll get to it. Hold on, there's Christmas sneeze. Did I get to the mute my mic button in time? I sure hope so. Sorry for the weird eyeballs, as I could feel that sneeze coming on. Anyways, Tuesday's show, mailbag. If there is a signing or a trade that is Blue Jays relevant, we'll get to it. And otherwise, probably be taking Boxing Day off. So with that, I'll leave you with this Tayler Saucedo podcast. Patreon, I'll see you Monday. My Christmas top 10 movies, Christmas songs, Christmas snacks, and episodes of Christmas TV are all up. Monday, they'll be out. So there you go. Okay, without further ado, Merry Christmas. Whatever you believe, happy that to you. From me to you, happy Christmas, and we'll see you guys hopefully with big news. Maybe Christmas brings us a Cody Bellinger or whatever you're wishing for. I'm wishing for Cody Bellinger on a moderately priced contract. Is that too much to ask? There we go. Okay, enjoy this chat with Tayler Saucedo. Merry Christmas. Cheers.
How you been? Good to see you.
I've been good. How about you?
Good, man. Love the hat. Look at you repping the frickin' Ducks, eh? Someone's got to
Yeah,
do it.
no connection to hockey, but I like the hat.
That's right. Did you watch Mighty Ducks as a kid?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, me too. That's the only reason I even like the logo or anything is I'm like, oh
Yeah,
man, when I was 12, I love that. Yeah.
100%.
Adam couldn't make it, but he does say to say hello, so it's just the two of us, and
Yeah,
you've done this about half a dozen times, so you know how it goes.
right.
30 to 60 minutes. Do you have a heart out, buddy?
No, I'm
No?
good.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's get into it. I'll count us in and away we go.
Okay, sounds good.
In 3, 2, 1, and we're rolling. So thrilled to have returning to the show, seasoned veteran of the walk-off, now pitching with the Seattle Mariners, Tayler Saucedo. Welcome back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good, man. Excited to chat some baseball with you and get kind of the rundown on how life has been over the last 24 well, not 24 hours, 12 months, I guess, is the last time we chatted.
Yeah.
And buddy, just before we even get into it, seriously, Tayler, what a year for you, man. Career-wise, just career numbers, career innings. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a fun year for sure.
Last time we chatted, you were a New York Met. Since that time, you were released. You were picked up by the Mariners, your hometown of Seattle. You broke with the team and were a contributing factor in that bullpen. How was the year?
I mean, like I said, it was a really fun year, special year, to be able to wear that uniform that I've always cheered for was something that, you only dream of. And it was really cool, just to have that experience and then, have the year that I had. It was really special. And, I'm always going to look back on that year, but obviously I'm excited for more. And, I'm really glad I'm in the position that I am with the Mariners. They're a great organization. So yeah, I mean, it's been a dream come true.
Did it hit you a few times throughout the season? Like I'm sure like there were waves of it in April, but like there had to have been moments, especially during that playoff run, where you're just like standing on the mound in T-Mobile, looking around your like hometown diamond and being like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, it was. I definitely had a lot of moments, especially obviously like coming into spring training, going into the facility, seeing all like the Mariners stuff, like the murals, everybody, and then obviously, going to T-Mobile and looking over and being like, man, I used to sit right over there, and I used to watch all my heroes pitch here, and now I get to step on that mound and contribute. And it's funny that you said that because when Trent came over to us, Trent Thornton came over
Yeah.
to us, those especially those last 10 days, he was sitting here and we were both looking out and it was sold out, crowds going nuts. And and he was like, dude, I can't imagine what this is like for you, like being here, in this race right now. And being a fan. And I'm like, dude, I told him, like, I've been having goosebumps since, the season started, and it's even more now. And, I would never take it for granted. It was truly remarkable.
Especially when you look back at 2021, and I remember you coming on the show and just being like, honestly, like I just hope that I'm with the team long enough that I can play in my hometown. And it was like such a celebration when you actually got to do that. And now you're literally on the Mariners as a piece in that bullpen. So cool. And I love that you bring up Trent Thornton and another familiar face, Teoscar Hernandez
Yeah.
was there when you come in the clubhouse. Is it kind of cool and kind of interesting to have a familiar face like that when you go into a new clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool, you know, because obviously Teo was the only guy that I knew over there. I didn't know anybody, and so like when I saw him, you know, he gave me, he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I don't know, kind of just found my way." And you know, it was, you know, Teo was awesome, and so it was just really cool, you know, just to have like somebody to talk to, and obviously Robbie, you know, Robbie Ray, and you know, it was really cool. So I was grateful that they were over there just so I can have somebody to talk to because I'm not very talkative right when I get to a new place and I don't know anybody. So they made it pretty easy.
Yeah, I always joke that I make a good fifth impression. I'm never like that the first time everyone's like, "Oh, yay," but like, you got to grow on people.
Right.
I want to so this was one that we do have listener questions for you, by the way, and everyone is pumped that you're back on the show, but there was about half a dozen of them that were all around this sort of question, so I just moved the question up here for you, but the Mariners bullpen, obviously the second big league pen you've been in, and everyone just wanted to know what were some of the main differences in your experiences between the Seattle pen and the Blue Jays pen, just in the way you were deployed, your comfort with your role, just the intangible stuff that maybe fans wouldn't get privy to?
Yeah. You know, like I'm obviously, you know, really respectful with what the Blue Jays did for me and my career. You know, obviously like giving me the opportunity to be in the big leagues, you know, play pro ball that long. But I think what the major difference here was just the data that was applied. And for the Mariners also, like there was true belief that like, hey, like you can be a part of this. Like it wasn't, I didn't ever feel like I was like, man, I'm just kind of riding, you know, the option train. Like, you know, they literally built, they pumped me as much as they could. They were like, hey, like this is who you could be, this is what you can do. You know, if you go out and do this, you're going to be pretty successful. And they're like, we don't care if you throw 80 miles an hour, if you throw 100, if you do these things, you will pitch for us. And you know, when I had that meeting with them, I was like, they left there, they're like, have you ever had a meeting like this? And I was like, never. You know, I've never been a part of this. I've never had the data thrown at me in the way that you guys threw it at me. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't just like, hey, do this,
Mm-hmm.
do that. It was like, you can do this, you will do this, you know. And like the one thing I've always told people, like, I never heard like don't, can't, won't. It was always like, you can, you will, we trust, we believe. And like that was, and I really truly believed in that. And like I think that kind of just gave my comfort level, you know, a whole different meaning, you know. And they were so good. Even like when I would struggle for a little bit, you know, like that first time that it was in Texas, I gave up four, I threw 40 pitches. I'm like, dude, I'm, you know, obviously I'm gonna go down, you know, they're gonna bring somebody up, I'm not available for however long. And the next day they came up to me and they were like, "You doing all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just kind of seeing where things are at right now." And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "I don't know, it was just yesterday. Like, I know how this works." And they're like, "Yesterday was just a bad day, and there's nothing else to it." You know, there none of us have left here and been like, "Hey, like, he can't do it. You know, we need to get somebody else up here." No, like, we know what you can do. We've seen it for now. Like, you're a big leaguer, and you're going to be a big leaguer for a long time if you just continue to be you. Don't change anything. You don't need to go out and do anything different. Just be you and continue to do the things that got you here and what have put you in this position. And I was like, oh, like I've never had that like open line of communication before, you know. The Blue Jays are a little, they operate a little bit differently, you know, and like they want fresh arms. Like, and that's just how the business is, right? But
Yeah.
like it was hard to get going with the Blue Jays, you know, like it was like, hey, okay, like you pitched a lot, new guy, and you're back in AAA. You don't know when you're gonna come back up, you know, and it was really hard. So like that, I think with the Mariners, it was the first time where I was like, I'm a part of a big league club, like, and they truly believe in me. Like I feel it, like, and it's not them just being like, hey, like, you know, try to get the best out of you, and then we'll get the next guy. It was really like, you're a part of this. You know, we're gonna ride with you. You know, obviously you still have to go out and do what you're gonna do. You can't just continue to, you know, have
Yeah,
bad
you got to
innings and stuff like
perform,
that.
but
Right. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, like the one thing that they told me is like, their saying was, hey, the hitters drive nice cars too. You're gonna have bad days. But they always said, like, if you go and do these things, like you're gonna win more than you're gonna lose, right? And at the end of the day, the house will always come for its money, right? So the failures are gonna happen, but just do these things and realize that, like, you can do this. And I was like, okay, like, and so it was that I think those were the major differences, just like them pumping confidence into me, and I truly felt that.
It gave you confidence then, right? Like just knowing that you weren't operating on that thin ice, that razor fine, you know, if you slip up even a little, you're probably the guy being yo-yoed down to AAA.
Yeah.
Like, and that was one thing, even just watching you pitch, which, like lots of Blue Jays, you made lots of fans up here, right, man? Like, I know any chance a Mariners game was on and you were pitching, I love tuning in. And like, truly, you emanated just more confidence. And it's so funny because I was like, I wonder what they did, what they said. And it's just, I mean, it's just the psychology of them being like, take a breath, man. You're good. Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to dump you the second you have a slip up.
Yeah, and it was that's all it was. It was just like I said, it was just pure confidence. Like, I didn't have, like, it's one thing like when you go out there and you're like, man, I gotta be perfect. I gotta make sure that I do this right. Like, or else if I don't, like, I'm gonna go back to AAA and, like, we're gonna ride this cycle. Like I said, they took away that aspect. They were just like, you're not in AAA. You're here and you're here for a reason. And you can go out and prove that. And like I said, and that had to be earned. It wasn't just given. Like, I got up there and I didn't pitch for 13 days when I first got there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I'm like, and I knew, like, too, like, and this was still early on in the season. Like, I knew, I'm like, I haven't pitched in 13 days. If I go out there on that 14th day and pitch, like, and it doesn't go well, I probably will go down, like, as much as they want to say, like, hey, you're here, but, like, that's the reality of it. And I think that Astros game kind of really propelled me to being like, all right, hey, like, we trust this guy. He's going to be a part of this. And so I think, just them believing in me was all I really needed.
You really talked about them being able to communicate the data to you, and it was eye-opening at times. Is there anything in particular that you can kind of mention that they pointed out to you that you just were like, oh, holy shit,
It
yeah,
was
I
just
should be
like,
doing this?
it was funny because, like, when Trent got here, he said the same thing. He's like, I've never had a meeting like that. It was just basically they told you, like, and, like, not trying to give away too much. It was just like basically they just told you, like, what you did really well. And then they look at it, they're like, here's your percentages of pitches thrown. They're like, for me specifically, they're like, you have 5 pitches. They're like, but you're only really throwing 2 of them. They're like, why aren't you throwing all 5? And I'm like, well,
Because I've been
Blue
told these
Jays
two are
told
the
me
ones I should be
this.
throwing.
Yeah, and I was like, Blue Jays told me I was doing this, so I just listened to them. And they're like, but these are all good pitches. They're like, you're putting yourself in a bind when you go out there by limiting the pitches that you throw. There's no reason for you to have 5 pitches and then not use them. They're like, you're not throwing sliders or righties, and you're not throwing your curveball, which apparently, like, they were like, your curveball is one of your better pitches. So, like, why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, that was just kind of what I was told, and and so I was abiding by that. And then they're like, do that more, throw these pitches more, and believe in them, because, like, across the board they're all really good. Like, we don't, and it wasn't just like, hey, like, your horizontal, your vertical is like this, like, we wanted this. So they were like, they, like I said, they were just like, your horizontal and your vertical are great, stay there, throw that more, emphasize that, and just trust it, and go out there and just like I said, be you. That was their most, like, most thing that they talked about was just like, we want your personality off the field to replicate your personality on the field. And they're like, be loose, be funny, be whatever, and then go out there and just do that. Because at the end of the day, like, you can be here, like I said, you can do it, but, like, you just need to trust it. We trust it. Do you trust it? I'm like, well, if you trust it, I trust it. So it's like,
Yeah.
it just, their communication was something that I haven't had. And, and that's not anything to knock on the Blue Jays. Like, it's the only org that I know, so it's
Yeah.
obviously the only thing that I can go off of, right? And, every org operates differently, and obviously the Blue Jays had a great bullpen this last year. And so, like, I'm glad things worked out for them, but I'm really thankful where I ended up, and just to have that knowledge and then another fresh, look at things. And I was like, oh wow, I was never really told to look at it that way. So like, thanks for opening my eyes. It was very simple stuff that they did, but all they did was just sort of they put the numbers in front of you, and you're like, wait, wow, that's all I need to do. And so it was really cool.
I think it is important to remember, even from the fan side of things, that there are very different organizational philosophies that go from team to team, and that players aren't just round pegs that you can shove into any square, right? And it's interesting to hear the different philosophy with the Mariners, and how it just brought the best out of you, man. Like, that's just so great to hear. Now, I do have a question for you here, and you can literally just tell me next question if you want. You do not need to dive into this.
Okay.
But let's face it, the Mariners were pretty much counted out of even being close to the playoffs by the All-Star break last year. Like, literally, everyone around MLB was just like, Mariners, this is not the 2022 Mariners. They're not going to do it. Over the next 5 weeks from about that point, you guys literally went out and were the best team in Major League Baseball, and not by a little bit, like just in general of any 5 week span of any time in the season, the Mariners were king there. At the trade deadline, they wind up moving Paul Sewald, your guys' closer, just a stud at the back end of the bullpen. You won anyways, right up until September, when then there were some blow-in saves. And from an outside perspective, it is possible that the Mariners would have been in the playoffs if they had kept Paul Sewald. Now, we can talk about ifs and what, like, you can go down that rabbit hole all day long. That's not really my question. My question's more about the clubhouse and what goes on. Is it deflating when something like that goes on, when the team still hasn't stopped believing, but maybe the front office is like, we should get our assets worth? Like, did you guys feel it? Or is it more of a blinders on, we're winning with who's there, it doesn't matter type of idea?
Um, I think it was a little bit of both, honestly. Like, I don't think I think we all kind of knew what the situation was, right? Because you're not winning, but during that time, right before the trade deadline, we won, I think, like 6 or 7 series in a row. And you think we're gonna add, but obviously, if at that time, like, if you're gonna add, you might have to give up a few pieces, right? And I think what the Mariners looked at that time was obviously teams wanted a high leverage arm. And I think at that time, our bullpen was one of the, if not the best bullpens in the league. And I think the front office believed in what they had, and
Mm-hmm.
they felt that everybody could step up. And they knew that we needed some hitters, right? And so that was our way of amplifying our lineup. That it sucked losing Paul. He was a cog in our bullpen. He was our captain, he was our leader. He was a guy that you can look up to, and a guy that you can trust. But I don't think we get to those last 10 games of the season without Rojas and without Canzone,
Mm-hmm.
so, like, obviously it's a double-edged sword. It sucked, but I don't think any of us felt like we were out of it just because we lost Paul. I think, same way that the front office, I think everybody believed in each other and what we had. And we just kind of propelled with that. And like, baseball is funny, right? Like, when things aren't working out, like a lot of the times we were sitting there, like during the season, like we lost a lot of one-run games. Like, why? Like, ball's not bouncing our way. Like, we're not getting that big hit in that moment we need. Or like sometimes, the bullpen, like baseball. And then August happened and everything clicked. Like nothing, we couldn't, like everything was just happening. Like that's just baseball, right? And like, and then you're riding that high, and then September happens, and then it's like all of a sudden we're back to where we're just getting kicked in the groin every time. Where
Yeah.
like something happened, and then it came down to the pitching, and the pitching let us down, and then it was just a continuous cycle of all those things. And but I think at the end of the day, like I think the org had the right intentions, because like I said, without Rojas, without Kenzone, I don't think we're
Agreed.
in that position, right?
Yeah.
And they did a lot of great things for us, and um and I think that's why we had that August, was because like we were like, hey, like we had that like we're all we got mentality, right? Like let's just go in there with who we got, and let's kind of not prove the org wrong, but like kind of prove what everybody else is thinking about us. Like everybody thought, like when we got rid of Paul, like it was like, well, they're selling, and they're not going to make the playoffs, and because of that, I think that motivated us. But at the same time, what I loved about this team, there was never any panic. There was never like, oh my God, like we got to go, we got to go. Like, no, like we saw it. Like, again, we were losing those close games. And like, we're like, if we just continue to do what we do, we're going to be okay. Like, we have Julio, we have Gino, we have a
Yeah.
bunch of people, who've been in this game for a long time, and just know that if you stay the course, things will click. And they clicked. And it was great. And, it was really fun to see. And, like, up and down in the bullpen, like there wasn't a guy that you couldn't throw out there in a leverage situation. You were like, oh, I don't know, like no, it was like that guy's like, hey, you know, he can step up. He's going to do this. We trust him. He's been doing it, and that just comes back to what I said, like the confidence. Like they brought us all in. Like obviously we were kind of like, oh no, Paul's gone. Like what are we going to do? It bumped everybody up to being like, hey, you might be in a role that you've never been in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but we believe in you. And so like, they came up to, when it happened, they came up to me and Gabe Spire, and they're like, hey, just let you guys know, like, you guys might be closing some games. And me and Gabe were like, all right. They're like, nothing. They're like, I get it's the ninth inning, like, but nothing changes, right? 3 outs or 3 outs. And they're like, you guys have been doing it all year, so we might call on you. And it happened, right? Like I have a save, right? And
Yeah.
so like, and so that is just them just putting faith in who we had. And if you look at even deeper, like obviously Paul, like he had, I think, a year and a half control left. Like you're obviously gonna have to pay him. They felt that they didn't want to pay him, right? Then you're gonna move him, right? If you didn't
Mm-hmm.
have intentions of probably paying him, then you're gonna move him. And so we got Kenzone and Rojas, and they took us all the way down to the second to last game against the eventual, World Series champions. And, I couldn't be prouder of everybody in there, and to rally and to do what we did. It was, like I said, it was really fun to watch.
I want to speak a little bit on the psychology you've just been talking, because you really did bring up how you do need to continually tell yourself when you're not getting the production that it's coming. And then you also need to remind yourself when you're the best team in all of baseball for 5 weeks that the other shoe is going to drop, right? And then, like, how do you? I know there's obviously no trick to just constantly being super cool all the time, but how do you kind of keep in your head and remind yourself of like, right, this is baseball, things are going to even out, I just need to keep with the process, things are going to happen. How do you go about doing that?
I just think it's the environment that you set, right? Like I said, we had guys like Gino, and Gino was the cog in that, of, like he always, his thing was keep going, keep going, keep going. Like no matter what, like we would lose a tough one, and he would just come in like locker room, just like, hey guys, keep going. This is gonna turn around. And when it comes from guys like that, you believe in that, right? And it's not something where it's just like, hey, he's just saying it this week, or he's just saying it yesterday. No, he was saying it the whole year. And when you have guys like that, and Cal, and all these guys, Julio, at his young age, and he's talking like a leader, and like you're like, dude, if he's doing that at his age, like I can do that at my age, right? Like, and and so it was just the environment that the clubhouse set. Like, and I haven't been a part of a clubhouse like that. It wasn't like loose, like, oh, it is what it is kind
Yeah.
of thing. It was just like, it's baseball. It's gonna turn around. And when people are voicing that every day, and you believe in it, and like it makes you believe in the guy next to you. And like for a lot of us, like, we were just believing in what was out there and what was ahead. There was still like baseball is like, it's not football, right? It's not where every week matters. Yes, every game matters, but like, there's 162 games. Like you can come out of this. And if you put together a month like we did, right, you know, and we just started believing in our ability. We knew we had a good team. We knew we had a good bullpen. We knew we had a good starting staff. We knew we had good hitters. It was just a matter of, hey, when will this turn around?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we just keep believing in it and we keep trusting the process, that will turn around. And it did. And it was really fun to watch, just to see that. And I learned a lot from just watching it, like where it wasn't like it was like panic, panic, panic. We need to do more, do more, do more. No, just do your job and continue to follow that process. And that's all it was. There wasn't any sort of magic dust that we threw out there. It was just simple, like, I believe in you, I believe in you. Let's keep this thing rolling. Eventually, the way baseball always works, it will turn around. And August happened. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I just love hearing how guys compartmentalize stuff like that. I know we had Davis Schneider on the show, and he, of course, went on that historic 30
Oh yeah.
game run where he was like the greatest player in all of baseball history. And we had a live show in Toronto, and he actually made time and came down and did an interview with us. And he said something so offhanded, but it just really like it stuck in my brain afterward because we were talking about this historic run. And he just so offhandedly was like, baseball's all luck. Now, I know that's not true. I know that's not true. But it was funny too, because I brought this up to Alan Rodon, who is currently he's probably going to be with the Buffalo Bison next year with the Jays. But I brought that up to him, and he said it in such an interesting way where he was like, it's funny he says that because I watched him and all I saw was a guy that was just raking, right? Just he was so dialed in. But he's like, I think sometimes with baseball players, it's easier to chalk it all up to luck because then that way, when you are in a slump, you can spin it the other way too. It's like, it's never really me. I'm just doing the process and whatever happens, happens. So,
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to put it. I think they nailed it. Like baseball isn't luck, but
of
it
course not.
definitely plays
Yeah.
a part in it, right? Like you just look at baseball, like you see a guy broken bat, whatever, fist, and then somehow that ball finds a way, and you're like, that's an out 9 times out of 10, right? But that one time he was lucky, right? And so I think, obviously, Schneid's when he was on that run, like you're just naturally in your flow state, and you're not thinking of anything else. And so that was awesome to watch for him. We were all watching. I'm like, this guy is the best hitter in the world. Like, like, who is this guy, right? So it was really cool to watch. And so I was, I didn't get to play with him a whole lot, but I was just happy for him because I know his story, and
Yeah.
to do what he did and propel the Jays like that at the time when they needed it. It was really cool.
Whenever a 28th round guy can work his butt off and get on a team, you got to cheer for him. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, So the last 7 days in Canada has been absolute insanity as Otani watch completely swept up the country. Were you curious? Were you watching Otani watch at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was getting the updates, and then I got the news, and apparently he was going to Toronto for a day,
Yeah,
and
for one day.
he was a Blue Jay for a day, and I was like, no way. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it seemed like a smart idea with the lineup that they have, that young core. And
Yeah.
I thought for sure. I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I didn't really see that one, but that makes sense. And then now as a Dodger, now he's
Yeah.
what
Just
we
what
kind of all
everyone knew was gonna
expected.
happen
When
happened in the end. Yeah.
you kind of look at it, you kind of knew the Dodgers were going to go ahead and throw out the money because they didn't sign really anybody last year. So it was like they kind of were like, well, we got this guy across town that will be a free agent, so we'll spend our money next year.
Yeah.
And now their lineup's ridiculous. So
But I mean, the best player in baseball is now in the National League, so that's good news for the Seattle Mariners and our
yeah,
AL West chances. Yeah.
yeah, he's out of our
Yeah.
division, so that's even better now. So that's great.
Can you think of any comparisons in free agency in sports that kind of like went to the lengths of like tracking flights? And I know Kawhi Leonard, and I know there's some basketball guys, but like that got wild, man. Like Friday was insane. I tried so hard, Taylor, not to get swept up in it. I'm like, stop it. You know Otani's not coming here. But like by the end of Friday, I'm like, he's a Blue Jay. Like
No, I mean the only craziness of free agency that I can remember is probably LeBron, but like he
Mhm.
was very open about
Yeah.
where he was talking.
Yeah, he was doing
But
press
like
conferences at every
right.
stop pretty much. Yeah.
I have never seen it to that extent. I mean, it's obviously earned. He's, like the
Oh,
greatest baseball player right now, that we've seen. And so, but like even just like my friends, like, we're playing games and they're like, "Oh, did you hear about like the Mariners are closing their team shop?" He goes, "The Dodgers did that last week and like they said it was for maintenance." He's like, "The Mariners are doing the same thing." Like, who's looking at that? Like like that's just crazy to me that like
oh,
you even know that our team shop's closed on Sunday.
yeah.
Like, like that shit. So no, I don't think I've ever seen that. But I kind of liked it a little bit more that he kept it, in house, kind of kept it private. It wasn't a show, like it wasn't
Yeah.
anything. It was just like, I'm gonna sign where I'm gonna sign. You guys will find out when everybody else finds out. And so, it's pretty cool.
Course, Major League Baseball, all their analysts were writing about it afterwards and what a good thing for baseball that he landed in LA was. They're constantly trying to grow the game. As long as all their stars are just in LA, they're
Just
happy.
in LA. Yeah.
So I'm curious your thoughts on this because John Heyman wrote something, and I honestly I try not to take stuff personal because I know they're not actually just shitting on Canada. But what was the phrasing here? He's like, you got to remember too, Shohei, he has a life to live as well, and he likes to get out. But he's framing it like Toronto's some boring small town. Like when you hear that, that's got to make you laugh a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean Toronto's an awesome city. I don't know why they're trying to treat it as like a small market, like, oh, like he's doing you guys a favor. Like, no, Toronto's great. That's a weird statement.
Right? Isn't it just that's somebody who's never been to Toronto, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah,
the only way. Yeah.
100%.
Uh Seattle Mariners City Connect. Dude, I love that jersey so much, man. The colors. Are you guys a fan of it? Like, do you personally like the Mariners City Connect? No
The
comment.
the jersey is cool. Jersey's cool. I'm gonna go ahead on record. And I'm just gonna say it. I don't like the pants. The pants. I feel like I'm going to a sleepover. Like the black pants is just kind of outrageous. I get the history towards it with the Mariners, but like like I would have maybe preferred all blue, like
Yeah.
just blue, maybe even yellow pants. I don't know, but the black pants was just it wasn't. I was just it didn't make me feel good when I was out there. So
Oh man.
that's
Jesus.
I think the jersey's cool. Maybe we could have thrown a mountain in the jersey. I don't know, but I'm not a designer, so what do I know?
That's
But
in the
I think
thumbnail now, Taylor. Taylor Saucedo would prefer yellow pants.
yeah, I mean, I hear that everybody liked, the jersey. The fans loved it. And it was
Mhm.
funny, it did look better when it was like out in the stands. I don't know what it was, but when it was out there, it was other people wearing it, it looked better. I don't know. Maybe you're just
Yeah.
your own critique and you're like, I don't feel good in this. But like, it grew on me. And a
The
lot of people
truth
love
is
them.
there were a lot of misses though in those City Connects. Like there's
Yeah.
some cool ones, but there were a lot of misses.
Yeah, there's various like I think my favorite one is probably Chicago, Chicago
Yeah,
City
that's a
Connect.
slick one.
I
I think
think
Colorado looks cool too with
Colorado's
the
I was about
green.
to
Yeah.
say. Yeah, Colorado like that one
And they went all with the green pants too. They didn't try and do something weird at the bottom.
they didn't try to make it, purple pants or something. Like it just fits the jersey, right? And so I don't know, like like I said, I like it grew on me as I went, but I'm just gonna go. I'm not a fan of the pants, so that's my take.
Are you already ramping up for spring training? I'm guessing you're in the midst of it right now.
Yeah, I'm I actually just got done throwing like right before we got on here.
Yeah.
I actually have to because I'm staying at my parents looking for a place, and so I'm driving 2 hours every day to go work out in Phoenix, and then I come back and then I throw. So yeah, we're in full go now.
Nothing like 4 hours of driving a day to really
Yeah,
keep you going,
Monday
eh?
through Friday every day. So hopefully we can find a place soon.
um, your spring training's in San Diego now, man. That's no offense to Florida, but weather-wise, you got to prefer that, right?
Arizona.
Oh, it's Arizona. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 No, it's yeah, I mean again, no offense to Florida, but I mean it's miles, miles better than Florida. And, and I
Yeah.
think like weather wise and then travel wise, like everything is right there. So like your farthest travel is gonna be like 30 minutes where, you gotta go to freaking Disney from Dunedin and like you don't get home until 10 o'clock and then you gotta get up at 6 and it's like this sucks. You
Oh,
know.
and Arizona, and like, I'm good with the heat, but when you start throwing humidity at me, I'm such a Canadian. Like, it just kills me, man. Like, the
Yeah,
humidity kills me.
the humidity was ridiculous. But the only thing is like I heard how great spring training is in Arizona, and right when it was like perfect weather right before spring training started, we're out there a little bit early, and then as soon as spring training started, it was like freezing cold randomly for like 4 weeks, and I'm like, this sucks. Like everyone's talking about how great the spring training is here. This is miserable. And they're like, it'll turn around. And it did. And so
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, okay, this is awesome.
Have you talked to Kirby Sneed lately? You boys meeting up over the off season at all?
Yeah, I actually got a text from Kirby like 10 minutes before this.
Nice.
So yeah, that's some cool news there, but I'm happy for him. So we'll see what transpires there. But yeah, I talk to them every day. Him and Brian Baker, we're all in a group chat together.
Yeah.
So
Love it, man.
yeah, enemy number one over there with Brian with Baker. But yeah, no, we talk all the time.
Are there Blue Jays you're in regular contact with anymore?
Um, I talked to Nate like when the Blue Jays came to Seattle. I went and got dinner with him and Calvin. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so actually a funny, pretty funny story about that. So we obviously game ends and we were already planning about going to get dinner. And so Calvin was like, the dinner place was like across the street from their hotel. And Calvin was like, why don't you just come and put your car under my name, just valet it, and then we'll meet you over there. So I was like, all right. So I go to the hotel and I like pull up and the guy was like, hey, I might need you to move. We have the Blue Jays coming in like any minute now. He's like, wait right here. I'll be right back. And I was like, okay. So I'm like waiting there. And all like 2 minutes go by and all of a sudden this bus is like, is like honking at me. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like they told me to wear here. And the guy's like, you need to move. And I'm like, where do I go? They're like, get out, just get out of the car, get out of the car. We'll do it. We'll do it. And I'm like, okay. So he takes all my stuff and he goes to valet it. And I'm like, I get on the curb and the guy that was like, hey, the Blue Jays are coming. He's like, you need to get out of the way. Like they're all going to get off the bus right here. And I'm like, okay. So I took like a couple of steps back and I just look inside the bus and I see Schneider and John Schneider, and he's looking at me and he was like, I could just see all of them like, of course it's this guy. Right. And then it was hilarious because I get out, like the guy was like telling me to move, right? And then everybody gets off the bus, and like I'm giving every single coach, player hugs, like
Yeah.
handshakes. And I could see, I look over at the valet guy and he's like, who is this guy? Like, who is this guy? They're like going up and shaking his hand. He was like,
Oh
the
man.
look on his face was so funny. He was like, who?
I just
And
love that so much. They're like, listen, you bum. Just the
yeah,
Blue Jays are showing up.
yeah, literally, he was like, you need to get out of here. And I was like, okay, like I get how it works. And Snyder gets off the bus and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" He was like, "Of all the people, of course it's you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know how
I
it
love
goes."
it.
Yeah.
I
So
love it, man.
that was funny. But yeah, I talked to a few guys.
You have a few more seconds here. I
Yeah.
got some listener questions for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got nothing going on.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate it. Always appreciate your time, man. It's always fun chatting ball with you.
Yeah, great. Love being here.
Okay, so this is from Mustard Tiger in our Discord. He says, "Oh, awesome. Love he's back on the show. You got to ask him what was going through his head when the Mariners trades came out while he was streaming. Whatever he's willing to share, at least. Haha. This
A
won't
nightmare.
die, will it, Taylor?"
No, it was a nightmare. It was really bad timing, and on my part, uh, because I didn't really think of it because I didn't realize that like I didn't at the time like whenever I stream, there's not that many people in there, maybe
Yeah.
max at a time like 25,
Yeah.
but majority it's the same 12, 15 people talking, and it wasn't anything crazy when we traded Gino. And so like the trade, I got the text. A lot of people, the what they didn't understand was that they thought I was finding out live time. I'm not gonna find out live time because my teammates know before the news breaks, and obviously they were texting us. And so I was just like, oh, that sucks. Like, you know, it is what it is. You know, that's the business. And then I'm like, I want to play some video games. Might as well hop on stream. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing my numbers go up and it's like 150 people, 170 people. And it's just like zooming down, like comments after comments. And I'm like, and I was kind of just playing dumb. I'm like, oh, did something happen? You know, like what's going on? So then that's what made it worse because everyone's like, oh my God, he doesn't know. We're telling him like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I guess somebody put it on their like their live podcast and it just brought in more people. And I was like, I'll never make this mistake again. I will never. So yeah, it
Oh,
was not fun.
I just love how this is so something that players in the 90s just they would laugh if you told them this. They'd be like, "What? That's not a thing." Like
It was yeah, it was nightmare.
Okay, so this is from Jenna in our Patreon, and she says, "Hey Taylor, glad you are back on the show. Can you tell us about the joke you played in the bullpen when you started warming up as a righty?"
Yeah. So like I said, the Mariners
Listen,
brought
Jays fans were tracking planes. They were we know
out
everything, Taylor.
um yeah, so that was like I said, the Mariners brought out my personality. And so, you know, I told them they're like, all right, if you really want my personality, you're gonna get my personality, right? And so again, bad timing. I'm never really good at timing. And so we were playing the Yankees and we were kind of getting our asses kicked a little bit. And it was like the eighth or ninth inning. Me and my buddy Trevor Gott, neither of us were gonna go in at that time. And we were just sitting out like in the bullpen, and I told him because I have this scar right here. You can kind of see it right there. And I always tell you, I'm like, yeah, I used to throw right-handed. And so I started that whole bit with Gott. I was like, yeah, I used to throw right-handed. Did you know that? And he was like, no, you didn't. Like immediately he's just like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, yes, I did. He was
He
like,
wasn't having it. I love it.
no, he was like, get on the mound then and go show me. And I was like, well, I haven't thrown right-handed in like 15 years, so it's gonna look bad. And he was like, he goes, get on the mound and go throw it. And I forgot that the cameras are pointed right at the mound. And so I go and do this whole bit. I'm like doing like old school winding it up and then like throwing it. And so then like I was like, yeah, you never threw right-handed, right? So then like that was that. And I kept the whole bit like, yeah, I did. Like I know it looks bad, whatever. Game gets done and I go to the lunch line or like into the cafeteria, go get food. Well, Scott Service comes in as well to come get food. And he just comes up to me and he was like, and I'm going to change his words a little bit because I can't use exactly what he said, but he was like, are you kidding me? Like, he goes, what the hell were you doing? in the bullpen throwing right-handed. And I was like, well, yeah, like I told
It was
God
like
that
a
I used to
joke.
throw. I did the whole thing. I told him, I'm like, it was just supposed to be a joke. He's like, we're getting our asses kicked. And I look over, you're throwing right-handed. He goes, time and place, man, time and place. And I'm like, oh my God. I went home. I texted my parents. I was like, God, and everybody, I'm like, dude, I'm getting DFA'd tomorrow. Like, this is so bad. This is so bad. I was like, I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna be the first one tomorrow. I'm going into his office and I'm gonna apologize. And they're like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. And I was like, all right. I go in there and he's like standing up, like he's like kind of just standing up, resting against the wall right when I walk in there. And he was like, what's up? And I was like, hey, I just want to apologize for yesterday. I was pretty stupid, time and place for everything. I understand. He goes, what? He goes, well, have you been worrying about this? I'm like, you have no idea. I was like, you have no idea. Freaking out. He goes, dude, I loved it. He goes, I look over, everybody's sad. And I look over and I see, I'm like, the hell are you doing? And then I'm like, I started laughing and I'm looking around. I'm like, is anybody else seeing this? And he was like, he goes, it made me forget about what was going on. And he goes, I loved it. He goes, obviously, don't do it again. But
Yeah.
like, it was a nice little change of pace to the game. He was like, he goes, I was totally joking yesterday. I was like, Skip, we need to work on our sarcasm, man. If you were joking. And so he was like, no, no. He was like, I texted my parents, I'm getting released.
You're
Like,
like,
he
you
goes,
took
oh
a
my God.
year off my life. Like,
Yeah. I couldn't sleep last night. I've been up all night. Like, so yeah, it was that was my story.
well, thanks for sharing. That's a great story, man. This is our last question for you. And honestly, Taylor, always appreciate how generous you are with your time, man. It's always good to chat with you.
Absolutely.
Uh, this is from Patreon as well. Our newest member, actually, Mark D. He says, tell T-Sauce it was great seeing him pitch so well this season. Always rooting for him. Ask him if there is a big difference between pitching in Toronto with the roof closed and Seattle with the roof closed, or is a dome a dome?
No, I think there is a little bit of a difference, but I think the only difference with T-Mobile compared to Rogers is that we have like the marine layer, like you hear about it all the time, and we're right on that water, and like it's open. It's a roof's closed, but it's still open. Um, I just think the only difference was that the ball doesn't travel as far in Seattle, which I love, and I think the ball carries a little bit more in Toronto.
Yeah,
Um,
which you
you
didn't
know,
love.
yeah, which no, I didn't. I wasn't a fan, but no. So I think that was the only difference was just having that marine layer there and like it being open a little bit, and it's still freezing, or in those early months. But other than that, no. I mean, I love Toronto because like when it was closed, close it, and it was great. But no, I think that was the only difference.
Awesome. Again, thanks so much, man. A very happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you and the family. Hope all goes well with the upcoming spring training and season. And I look forward to the next time we get to chat, bud.
Absolutely, you too.